After more than a decade of working in corporate America as a marketing executive promoting big name brands, this lovely individual has chosen her powers for good. Known for her publications of Brands of Faith, Hoodwinked, Black Ops Advertising, Selling the Sacred, and more, she educates others on how to protect themselves from the rise of black hat consumerism. Please welcome Dr. Mara Einstein.
Thank you so much. This is going to be so much fun. I'm really looking forward to this.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm also very looking forward to it. And I literally wrote at the top of my notes that your name is pronounced Mara, not Mara, like Sarah. And it's been like weeks of me saying the wrong thing to myself and my family because I've been excited to do this collaboration with you. So I apologize. It's Mara.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you wouldn't be the first or last person
I know.
to have to deal with that. It's so funny to me.
I read it on your website. It said Mara, like Sarah. And I already messed it up. Anyways, thank you so much for being on today's episode. So, can you elaborate, Dr. Einstein, a little more on what compelled you to become a marketing critic after more than a decade of working as a corporate marketing professional yourself?
Sure. That's an easy question. So I had worked in advertising agencies, and I worked on Miller Beer and Dole Foods and Uncle Ben's, bunch of other things. And then I moved over to work in television. And that's what I would always wanted to do. I wanted to work in television. I'd started my career as an actress. And so I got a job working at MTV Networks at VH1 as a marketing director, and then moved from there to NBC. And part of a job as a marketer is to look at a lot of research. And what I was finding in the research was that people weren't really happy in their lives. They were having um, concerns in terms of religion and spirituality, and how were they going to find meaning in the world. And by that point, I had already started my PhD program, and I knew that I wanted to do something about media and religion, and which ultimately became more specifically marketing and religion. And so as I was seeing all of that, I began to think, gosh, getting people to watch more television can't be the best use of my energy on the planet. It just can't. And so I began to think about, where I could get what I wanted to do. There's a really great book called I Could Do Whatever I Want If Only I Knew What It Was.
Mm.
And unlike What Color is Your Parachute, which is the book that most people get told about, that has very Christic language in it. So as a Jewish person, I was like, ooh, ooh, yeah, no, that's really not working for me. But the other thing that the book, I Could Do Whatever I Want If Only I Knew What It Was, does or did, and the author is Barbara Scher. People are looking for it. It asks you, what do you want your life to look like? Not what do you want your job to look like? What do you want your life to look like? And that's a very different question. And so over the course of 6 months, I was sort of doing the work of the book and found, I don't want to work 52 weeks out of the year. I started as an actress. I like performing. I like reading. I like researching. I like writing. And through all that, I came to, oh, I should become a professor. Now, you would think that that was probably pretty obvious, but it took 6 months of work for me to get there. And so I decided to go back to school, get my PhD. And my PhD is in something called media ecology,
Which
which
is
is
so cool because I love the word ecology. And I was like, oh, what is the environment, the place in which media actually thrives?
Yes, exactly. That's so wonderful because I try to explain to people what media ecology is, and it's like, but isn't ecology having to do with like the environment? No, yes, but the environment is the society within which we live, and how does that society change as we change the tools of communication within the context of that society? And what I say to my students, when my students are like, "Oh, but you were working at NBC and you had such a glamorous job," it's like, how could you leave that? And I said, when I didn't care whether or not Jerry Seinfeld showed up for the upfront meeting, that's when I knew it was time to leave. Because I just, you do the same thing over and over, and it was just really mentally numbing. And so my work now is based on taking the information I know from having worked in the industry and now having spent 25 years as a scholar and a writer and an academic to teach people what I know and present it in ways that are more easily understood so that I can give people agency within a consumer culture. And it's really interesting work in that people think they understand how marketing works because they're surrounded by it. And it's that old frog in a pot idea. And so what I try to do is to explain what are the strategies and tactics that marketers use so that people can begin to see it being played out in the world. And once I begin to do that, people go, oh, okay, now I see what's going on. So that's what I do. So whether it's on TikTok or books or public speaking or in my classroom, that's what I do.
I really love how you said giving people agency over the marketing world. That's fabulous.
Mm, thank you.
I
Yeah,
love it.
it's a good North Star. It helps keep me honest.
Yeah, that's awesome. Super, super, super cool. Now, I know you've written books like Brands of Faith and Hoodwinked, but what compelled you to reach out to someone like me to collaborate?
Because I there's multiple people who will come at the information that I talk about and write about from different perspectives. And that's what's really interesting, particularly about a book like Hoodwinked. Okay, so Hoodwinked is my most recent book. And I think of that as the culmination of 30 years of work because I started my PhD program in 95 and really then started looking at the intersection of religion and spirituality and marketing. And how do those things interact with each other? So if people would look at the cover of my book, they would, because the subtitle of the book is How Marketers Use the Same Tactics as Cults. So people would look at that and think, oh, that's for marketers, right?
Hmm.
But I've found that my work really talks to a whole bunch of different groups, which is always publishers hate that because they're like, who is this book for? Well, it's for marketers, yes. It's for moms and parents who are trying to help their children negotiate the social media spaces. It's for people in the religion and spiritual space because there are some people who are not using people's need for connecting with something bigger than themselves in a way that's positive. They're used because oftentimes, and whether we're talking about a traditional religious experience, going to a church or a mosque or a synagogue, people often go at points when they are particularly vulnerable. And
Hmm.
churches look for this all the time. So they know when you've gotten a divorce. They know when someone in your family has died. And that's oftentimes when churches, for instance, will reach out to people and ask them to, come join a bereavement group. And then they use that bereavement group as an entree into the rest of what the church has to sell. Not all churches are doing this in a nefarious way, but when we are vulnerable is when we oftentimes look for spiritual practices or religious practices. And that opens us up to then be pulled into these groups in ways that are not healthy. And that's the first step of getting pulled into a cult. And I'm not saying everything's a cult, but that's the first step.
Hmm.
And so this book and some of my other work is helpful for people to understand how how these tools are being used against them when they're put in places of vulnerability.
Hmm. That's very true. I just got done saying something similar in a past YouTube video as well. That no, I mean,
Mm,
it, personally, I've reached out to spirituality during times that have been really hard as well. And it's easy, especially in, like you said, the marketing world that we live in, the environment, that if you buy something, it'll make you feel better. And then
right.
when there's a spiritual attachment to it as well, or a
Yes.
religious attachment to it, then
Yes.
that idea of feeling better can be encapsulated so much more when you're
Right.
at a vulnerable point.
Right.
And I'm not going to lie, when you reached out to me, I know we had a quick email conversation. You said that you liked my podcast on past lives, which
Uh-huh.
was fabulous to me because I started MetaPsychics in the hopes of being able to talk about things that I thought were fun and interesting and speculative, just in an entertainment and like educational purpose, because there
Mhm.
are some things I love history.
Mhm.
So, learning the history of old abandoned places or haunted historic landmarks is always super, super fun. But I do think that sometimes there can be a line between things being fun, interesting, and educational to not necessarily healthy for some mindsets, if you will. But
Right,
one of the things
right.
that I loved about the way that you approach this topic is that you're not an attack on marketing
Mm.
professionals.
Mm-mm.
Never. I was
Mm-mm.
reading some of the little free downloads that you have on your website, specifically it was the religion and spirituality one, because that's what we're talking about today, but
Right.
also the one about brand compassion. I know there
Hmm.
was like pink washing
Right.
and woke washing,
Purpose washing. Yeah.
purpose
Yeah.
washing. That's what it was. Yeah. And I liked how you were talking about Disney and
Hmm.
their almost forced response on some bill
Right.
that was passing on Florida.
Right.
And I liked how you didn't necessarily focus on what Disney's like response was to everything, but
Right.
the fact that they felt compelled to have a response.
Right.
I
Right.
really liked how
Right.
you
Right.
give facts, not
Thank
necessarily
you.
to come to you to teach people what your conclusion is,
Right.
but more so to present the facts and say this is what I believe, but also use it in its own intent, like its
Yeah.
own form to come to
Yeah.
your own conclusions.
Whether I'm researching marketing folks or whether I'm researching religious communities, which I've also done, one, I always tell them I'm a researcher and why I'm there.
Hmm.
I never hide why I'm there. And I always say to them, I'm not researching this to attack you. I'm researching this because I know I'm in a privileged position to be able to take a bird's eye view about what is going on. Now they know because I've worked in the trenches that I know what it's like to be having to respond to a client all the time, and having to answer those questions and be on call and all of those things. So I'm sympathetic to the work that they do. And it was interesting when I interviewed people for Hoodwinked, I didn't tell them, marketers, I didn't tell them what the title was. And then when I was done and I said what the title was, and I said marketers use the same tactics as cults, I got two responses. One was, yeah, that's exactly what we do. Uh, you know, and then the other response was, yeah, that is what we do.
Hmm.
So I'm trying to be open to both sides of that equation when I do that. The other is when I wrote Brands of Faith, I did research on the Alpha Course. Do you know what the Alpha Course is?
No, please tell
Yeah.
me.
Okay. So the Alpha Course is a 10-week course that has video or DVDs of lectures. And so a group of people get together, and for 10 weeks, you get together, you have dinner together, you watch the DVDs together, the recording together, and then you sit down and ask questions of a facilitator. And the way that they position this is that there are no stupid questions. Now, this is created by an evangelical in the UK. It was brought here to the United States, and it is either for Christians, new Christians, sort of born again folks who want to learn about the religion, or it's for people who feel like they want sort of a brush up. They didn't get enough when they were in Sunday school or whatever. And so when I went to research those folks, I told them, I'm here as a researcher, and a lot of those groups have really been poo-pooed by religion scholars. And so they're very nervous about letting someone like me into the room. And I said what I said to you, which I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. I'm not looking to put you down, your
Hmm.
faith, your belief, whatever. But I actually did it twice. Very interesting. But what's also really interesting is when you go into those rooms as a researcher, and even if you tell them you're a researcher, which I also did at the Kabbalah Center, and we can talk about that too if you want to, is as a Jew, they want to convert me.
Mm,
So the whole time I'm there, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, and they're trying to keep me from going to hell, which is a really interesting research experience.
that is a very, that is very, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
That
Yeah.
is funny. Sometimes I do readings with folks and it's more so like I remember I had a reading once with this man. His daughter had gotten the reading for him.
Mhm.
And he's like this big guy. He looks like he'd be like he would make a Harley Davidson look small, you know? And I get on the and he was very, very nice, but he was an older man, maybe like 50s, late 50s. And I get on the call with him, right? Because most of my readings are from Zoom, and he's just like this on the other side of the computer.
Oh, nice, nice. Yeah, he's real open.
Right? No, and he said, you know, I'm doing this for my daughter because she said that she really likes you. He goes, but I'm not gonna lie to you, guys. I think all of this is a bunch of malarkey. And I said, sir, I entirely respect your opinion. And I completely understand where you're coming from because mediumship on a cognitive level seems completely preposterous. So I
hmm
understand what you're talking about, but let
hmm
me tell you how I've been able to hypothesize and theorize how it's plausible. Not
hmm
that it's real, but that it's plausible, right?
hmm
I said, and then we'll just go from there. And he ended up having one of the best readings ever. But it's
mm
so funny that when you get into groups with people, they're very like if you tell them something and they have a preconceived understanding of you or
Right,
what you're trying to
right,
do,
right,
they just completely close off.
right,
So
right,
I
right,
understand it
right.
must have been hard trying to navigate that.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what that made me think of is I just read a book called The Wrong Way Home, which is about cults, and it was written by a psychiatrist or psychologist. And but an earlier book was written in the early 1990s. So
Mhm.
pretty close after, Waco and some of those things that had occurred or, Waco might not have happened yet, but definitely after Jonestown. And one of the things that he talks about in the end of the book is that the way that you get people out of cults is by walking in their shoes. He talks about meeting them on an even horizon. And I think that's one of the things that we've really lost in the social media space is learning how to walk in one another's shoes. So the thing that I think that you did really brilliantly in talking to this man is to say to him, I understand the place that you're coming from in terms of this going on, but let's just see if we can crank this out and see if we can make it work. And I think that that's really something a lot of what we've lost in our society right now because of social media and the ability to be able to, talk anonymously, not talk anonymously, comment anonymously.
Yeah. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure, sure.
From just, a professional and from woman to woman, I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's
Um,
a great thing.
Thank you. So I do want to say that it was from reading your website, your what I believe statements that sold me a lot on our collaboration. Just
Uh-huh.
a
Uh-huh.
lot. So I want to read through these for everyone that's watching and listening at home because
Mhm.
I think when it comes to navigating the marketing ecology, as you said, the marketing world, even the spiritual world, because they're so intertwined nowadays. Like you said, as
Mhm.
social media and the internet and as a content creator, I think this is a beautiful opportunity, a little selfishly for me, to learn more about the proper and like healthy ways to market as a
Mm,
professional within the
mm,
content creation space as well, because
mm,
I've never really ever learned or challenged myself to learn those things. I've
mhm,
been, you know, learning things about spirituality and fun topics and teaching it to other people. But as far as a business professional, when it comes to marketing myself and doing it in a way that's productive and healthy, I don't know any of these things. So I'm hoping that
Well,
this
having your cat in the background is really is very helpful. Okay, she just went away.
she did.
No, they always say, use animals and kids because that's always a great, it's always
Well,
a great way
do
to attract people.
do they really? Well, I've
Yeah.
also thought too, she always puts her little bean toes under the door and just shakes it. And
Mm,
I would rather just have her in here doing weird things in the background than making obnoxious noise in
yeah,
the
yeah,
that you'll just hear. But also if people don't like cats, then maybe they shouldn't watch my content. That's more so how I think about it. Not
yeah,
necessarily to bring people in, but like associate yourself with people who
yeah.
are are
Yeah.
have the same values as you,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
suppose maybe.
Yeah.
But so I really am I'm excited about this video and this podcast because I'm hoping that it will educate people to
Hmm.
understand marketing tactics that are used to them, not just within
Sure.
the spiritual and religious community, but as a
Sure.
whole.
Yep.
So let's first start with your what I believe statement number one, which is be a straight shooter. You say that
Hmm.
you believe in telling it like it is, good or bad. If it's good, terrific. If things are bad, it's best to know what you're dealing with.
Hmm.
So when it comes to the
Right.
marketing perspective, I think that's a beautiful and brilliant thing
You know,
because
I think,
I
sorry, go ahead.
nope, you go ahead. This is you're the guest here.
In terms of how I think about that, in terms of how I create content, people talk about authenticity.
Mhm,
And that word has been so overused as to have very little meaning anymore. And that's why I use this idea of a straight shooter. And look, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. My students will tell you I'm not everybody's cup of tea. But part of that is that I would rather tell you how things are and be able to move from there than to sugarcoat something for you and let you live in your own private Idaho. That doesn't serve anybody. That doesn't help anybody. Um, what was the second part of that statement? Because I don't remember. I'm a straight shooter and
It's if things are great, terrific. If things are bad, it's best to know what you're dealing
right,
with.
right. And that's exactly right. And particularly now, because there's so much misinformation that's going on out there, you have to find the people who you can trust. And whether I'm talking about this for myself as a content creator or whether you're thinking in terms of who it is you want to interact with, either from a content creation perspective or from a spiritual perspective, you want somebody who's going to tell you what is going to help you to move along in your path in the most successful way.
Hmm.
And so you have to find the truth tellers
Hmm.
wherever you can find them. And you don't want somebody who's going to sugarcoat stuff for you.
Yeah, that's one of my that's actually one of my favorite things because I've been a medium since I was little. My mom's
Mm.
also a medium. So
Hmm.
it's been a while that I've been able to develop my abilities to a certain point.
Hmm.
But most people I've learned since doing this professionally because it's different than when you're little, but then when you actually start to sit down with people and talk to them and their past loved ones, it's very different. And one of the things I've learned is souls, if you just want to call them spirit as like a collective, when I'm talking to souls, they don't sugarcoat things either. And you think as like the
Mm.
professional, when people come
Right.
to you asking questions, that their Nana Joe is going to come through because it's my understanding that souls know, see, hear, and feel everything. So
Uh-huh.
they're privy to information. Imagine it kind of like if you can exist independently, but if you want to know something, you just think about it and you have the answer. So a lot of times when I'm talking to people, they ask me questions about stuff that's going on in their life now, things that have happened, things that could happen in the future. And it's nothing that I know, it has to come from somewhere. So
Hmm.
that's where spirit comes in and say, for this example, Nana Joe. So sometimes people will ask me about what they should do for a certain problem. I'm like,
Hmm.
listen, I don't know that, but let's
Hmm.
ask someone.
Hmm.
Nana Joe will step forward and be like, listen, you're not doing this correctly. You're not doing
Yeah.
that correctly.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
do not sugarcoat it. And
Yeah.
it is one of the most healing and freeing things, but it's also I like how your first statement is very much the same as what spirit provides too.
Mm.
I feel
Oh,
I
well,
feel
I feel affirmed.
well, it's funny because in marketing you say a lot of people and we'll get to this later too about how things will be marketed to you as like, oh, if you do this and that, then all of these good things will happen to you. And
Hmm.
I feel like
Hmm.
mediumship and spirituality is also one of those things I'm
Right.
learning.
Right.
If you
Right.
just do this, then everything will be sunshines and rainbows. And
Right.
that's not how it is. And Nana
Right.
Joe's going to come through and she's going to tell you the exact same
Right.
thing.
Right.
So I really
I,
love that.
It's interesting because what that made me think of was all the issues that are going on in terms of incels. And I recently heard somebody talking about, who is signing up to be part of ICE right now. And it's people who they don't have any stuff in their life. They're bored with their lives. And you know what? Sometimes life is boring. Life is supposed to be boring. You're supposed to sit on your couch and pet your dog or your cat, you know? You're supposed to look at the sky and listen to birds sing. You're not supposed to be sitting with you know, and look, I use my phone as much as anybody else does, don't get me wrong. But there are times where you're really just supposed to sit down, relax, and be bored. And I think we've sort of lost that. We've lost that ability to just be in a space and not have somebody else. I know this is maybe I've gotten off in a little space, but it made me
No, no,
think about
no.
this.
You're perfect. I love it. And no, it's like even just getting off of the top of marketing or segueing into it, it's the fact that culturally almost it's like happiness and being
Mm,
busy is something that is
mm,
marketed to us and is becoming
yes,
our culture.
yes,
And it's
yes, bingo. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah, yes. You get an A+. Okay, next.
Well, no, I love that because you were talking about how you love writing too, and writing
hmm
is one of your things and
hmm
being able to talk, but you really enjoy writing. I enjoy writing too. I I started doing email readings, which I was really nervous about because
hmm
when I first started doing this professionally, I thought that I had to be sitting in front of someone like in a room physically in order to
hmm
connect to past loved ones, but that's not the
hmm
case because mediumship works a lot just like a phone call. So as long
Uh-huh.
as I can talk to you, that's all that I necessarily need.
Uh-huh.
But I had someone ask me one time in an email reading if they're ever going to feel happiness again. Could you
Mm,
imagine
mm,
as a professional of any sort? I don't even care if it's a
mm,
medium. I don't care if you're a
mm,
therapist. I don't care if you're a
mm.
doctor, whatever. Someone asking you that and
Yeah,
feeling like that is a responsibility that you have to give. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
this isn't for me. Who's
right,
going to answer this question? And
right.
there was a soul of a woman who stepped forward for this person that asked this question. And she told me just what we were talking about, which is happiness comes in waves. It's like the tide, it's like the
Mm-hmm.
seasons. It's
Mm,
not something that's supposed to be constant because
right,
that's not how the world
right,
works.
right,
It's unrealistic
right,
for people to think that you're going to
right,
feel happiness all the time.
right.
And she said, it could be the day your kid was born. It could be walking home and your dog just does something super silly one day. It's not constant. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it's marketed to us like that.
right.
And it was so beautiful for the soul of this woman to say something like that. And
Yeah,
it's things
yeah,
that people like you are also talking about.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's really cool.
Yeah, I don't know if people remember, well, it's a little bit now, but I remember, maybe 5 years ago, the whole thing about your value as a person is how busy you are.
Mhm.
What we need to what we need to start valorizing is the idea that the more you can sit down and not interact with anything other than your time and your space and your mind and your heart and your soul is maybe a better use of your time. And then if you do end up going back into your workspace, then you can be more effective. Now let me put a little caveat to this. Um, the whole introduction of mindfulness into corporations has is not so much that they want you to be more
Healthy.
centered. They want you to be more centered so that you can be more effective in your work.
Hmm.
So, we got to watch out for that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I remember. I reading that. All right, so we're going to move on to Dr. Einstein's second statement, which is empower others. That your
Mm.
teaching and writing is all about giving others the tools they need so that they can decide where they want to spend their hard-earned cash.
Right, right. One of the things that I talk about, and people may or may not recognize me because they did my hair really weird and I didn't wear glasses in in Buy Now, the Shopping Conspiracy, which is on Netflix. And one of the things that I said in that documentary, which is something that I say all the time, is marketers show you the shiny thing over here because they don't want you to see the dirty doings that they have going on over here.
Mhm.
And I think that's one of the most important things for people to think about, whether they're talking about thinking about marketing or the media broadly, is they're showing you this, but what are they not showing you that's related to this, right? So uh, let's use a multi-level marketing. Let's just use that as an example because that's been on my mind and it's all very culty. So multi-level marketing, for those who don't know, is legalized pyramid schemes. So there's somebody at the top, right? There's people sort of in the middle, and they all have downlines who then, buy products and all the money that they make go up to the top of the pyramid. Okay, fine. One of the things that multi-level marketing companies do, particularly for that middle level, not the top people, they know exactly what they're doing, but sort of in the middle, those folks are doing well. There's a group of people who are doing well. And they think that all the people underneath them are doing well too, because they are. And so what the MLM does is hide from them the fact that no, the people below them are having to take out mortgages in order to be able to buy the products that are ending up putting food in your mouth.
Mm,
And so that was one of the really interesting things to me when I was studying multi-level marketing is like how could they keep it going? It's because of that sort of middle level of people that are doing well. Now, it's 1%. Don't get me wrong. 99% of people who are in multi-level marketing don't make a penny. And in fact, a lot of them lose money. But it's that sort of second level who think that because they're doing okay, everybody else is doing okay. So they've been hoodwinked, right? They've had their eyes closed. They've had the hood put over their head so they can't see what's going on.
and they're just helping to perpetuate it because they
And they're
don't know that
helping
it's
to,
bad.
right, right. So where is it that marketers are not telling you the things that you really need to know, right? So smoking, right? When people were smoking,
Mm,
people didn't know that they were going to get cancer. It's what, if we talk about it in economics, we talk about it as externalities.
mm,
What, or if you drink a bottle of soda, right, and you're having it in a plastic can, what are the externalities connected to drinking that bottle of soda? What they're showing you is happiness, right? Coca-Cola's tagline was open happiness for a very long time. And even now on the cans, they say things like have names of people on it so that you associate drinking a can or a bottle of soda with your friendships, your relationships, with happiness. That's what you think about.
mhm,
What you don't think about is that that bottle is never going to get recycled, even though you put it in the recycling container, because
mhm.
less than 10% of bottles are actually recycled. So that they're showing you the shiny thing, so you don't look at the other thing that they're not doing on the other side.
Got it. Now, where do you think, and this is just because we're going to talk about like culty things a little bit later, just
Hmm.
topically.
Hmm.
Where do you think the cutoff between running a business and the responsibilities of it coincide? For like you said with Coca-Cola, the things that could happen not only health-wise but environmentally consciously. Like,
Hmm.
people sell ice cream at an ice cream
Hmm.
store. I literally
Hmm.
went to go get ice cream with my family last night. It was fabulous.
Right. Right.
But if you are someone that struggles with say health issues like diabetes
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
being overweight,
Hmm.
do you think that the store has a responsibility to dissuade people that are struggling with things like that in
No.
order? Okay,
No.
got
No,
it.
because this is
Because I've
this
been
is.
asking myself the same thing, but in terms of spirituality,
Hmm.
because sometimes I have people come to me where I'm like, I don't necessarily think that they need a medium right now. They need something else. So
Hmm.
where do I have the line of saying, no, I'm not going to have my services offered to you because I
Hmm.
think that it could be wrong? Or is that
Right.
me overstepping boundaries of people's free will
Right.
and efficacy?
Um, I think the
Is
the
that
ice cream and your situation are a little bit different, but I understand why you're putting them in the same sort of bucket. In terms of the ice cream, remember what I said is I'm giving people agency. I'm giving them the information so that they can use their own power and agency to decide whether or not this is something that they want to engage with. Somebody may come to you as a medium and not have a full understanding of what that is, right? What your skill set is, what it is that you are going to do for them. And I'm going to crazily compare this to applying to college, right? When
okay?
people apply to college,
Yeah.
they're doing it for the first time. They don't really know what to expect. Yes, they may know other people who have applied to college, or a parent may have applied to college, but applying to college now isn't like applying to college 30 years ago. So people should forget that that was the case. But anyway, but you're entering into a situation where the people who are selling the product to you know more about it than you do. And you're
Hmm.
relying on them to teach you as much as you can. So you have information for people that they may not know. So I would say to someone, I do think you are in the right to say to someone, you know what? Not this is what I can do for you, XYZ. That's not going to help you right now. Maybe 6 months from now it will, and I'd be happy for you to come back and chat with me.
Hmm.
But I don't think what you need right now is this. Let's talk about the ice cream on the other side. If somebody is a diabetic, I'm guessing they've probably been to a doctor. They have a very good idea what issues are related to increasing or decreasing their sugar levels. And so it's their, if they decide to walk into that store and eat the ice cream, that's their agency. That's their decision to do that. But they have that information or should have that information walking into that store. And if just to put a button on this, one of the best companies when it comes to purpose marketing, as opposed to purpose washing, is Ben and Jerry's, because they actually walk the walk.
Oh,
They produce a good product, but they support Black Lives Matter. They support issues related to climate change. They were one of the first people to talk about the insurrection on January 6th. Um, they Oh my God, so many different things. They have a wonderful website. If people want to see how to do purpose marketing right, go to the Ben and Jerry's website.
okay, cool, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hmm.
It's been something that's been on my mind. So
Yeah. No,
it's
I
a
think you have a very specialized skill set,
mhm.
and so it's not like somebody can like go to the encyclopedia and say, "Oh, what is this medium going to be able to do for me?"
Mhm.
They have to talk to somebody.
Yeah, it's very true. And a lot of people come to me and ask me certain questions. They're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
can you do a special ritual to do this, this, and that?" And I was like, that is not my brand of mediumship. You want to talk to Nana Joe, we can do that. But
Mhm.
I have to tell
Mhm.
people no. And I've been wondering about the ethical nature of that just as a professional in
Yeah.
such a, you know, spiritual, non-physical profession. So,
Yeah.
all right,
No, but
now,
I think um I think your feeling about it is right.
thank you. Well, and
That's I'll say
a
that.
lot of people ask me too about like what it could be like entering in the spiritual world, quote unquote, as a professional. So anyone
Mhm.
that's listening or watching this hopefully can understand what they could or couldn't do in order to promote themselves correctly and what they have to
Mhm.
offer, whether it be a service
Mhm.
or um, a product.
Right.
So I
I think
just,
that goes back to the first thing that I said, which is be a straight shooter.
mhm,
These 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 are the things I can do. These are the services that I offer. If you are in XYZ situation in your life, these services will be helpful to you. And if you're in this place, this may not be the best thing for you right
the
now.
best thing. Yeah, exactly. So I just enjoy how you promote empowering others to grow and not
Mm,
just you're talking to them, not telling them what
right,
to do, which is
right.
fabulous. So your third one is doggedly pursue what you want. No one is going to hand it to you. Your future
Mm.
husband isn't going to come knocking at the door, and $1 million isn't going to fall from the sky.
Yeah, yeah,
Marketers create the mindset that getting your heart's desire is easy, and it's not.
right. And this is about everything, right? In
Hmm.
terms of how something is sold. One of the things I talk about actually in Brands of Faith, when I wrote it, was one of the first books to talk about religion as a product.
Hmm.
And it was around the time of the Riverside Church and a lot of these churches using focus groups and research and surveys and things like that to find out who would attend their particular church. Um, Rick Warren was one of the people that was doing this, and so they what was going on and what I was thinking about at that point when I was writing that book was that we've been taught that all of these things in our life can be bought to take care of a problem, right?
Hmm.
That's really what it is. What advertising does is tell you, you have this problem in your life, and if you buy our product, it will eliminate all of your issues related to that. Well, religion was being sold in exactly the same way.
Hmm.
If you're having all of these issues going on in your life, spirituality, you should be able to buy spirituality. in the same way that you buy a car and it's going to automatically make you feel better. But the reality is that it doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
Life doesn't work that way. But it's been so ingrained in us that something's going to happen quickly, right? Marketing is all about convenience. Marketing is all about things being quick. Look, you look at it now on social media, right? We talk about the marketing funnel, which is the time between when you first learn about a product and when you actually go out and buy it. And there used to be all kinds of breathing space within that. You saw a commercial, sat around and thought about it. Then you might get in your car, you go to the store, you buy the product, but there's time. Now you see a product, you push a button, and it's on its way to your house.
I saw a commercial recently that it's for an internet website, right?
Hmm.
Or not an internet website, but an internet provider.
Hmm.
And the literal slogan that they use is, "Oh, our internet is so good." Well, I guess it's not literal; it's quote unquote. Um, they were marketing it as their internet being so fast and reliable that they're there for your late night shopping sprees. And I was like, "Oh, I'm never buying
Fair.
this."
Yeah,
All they
yeah,
had to
yeah,
do was say that, and I was like,
yeah.
"That is gives you the
Yeah,
heebie-jeebies."
yeah, 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 but that's good. That's good that you think that. But what that mindset has done, because we have that situation in our lives over and over and over and over and over again, and the fight becomes to realize, no, the things that I really want and I really care about take time. It's also the thing that really pisses me off about AI, but that's for a whole
A
that's for a
whole nother
whole
thing.
other conversation. But it's part of the reason why, like, I tell my students to go to the library. Don't just do your research online. Because,
Mhm,
yes, you will find things and it'll bring up certain information related to what it is that you're looking at. But if you go to the library, you will see books that would never pop up.
mhm,
And sections are put together in relationship to each other. So you then might stumble on an area of sociology that you would have never thought to include in this.
mhm,
And so taking your time, letting things breathe, working step by step by step. And it's really interesting because people have seen me online, and I say that I'm a media critic, and people are like, "Oh, how do I get to do what you do? Spend 10 years in the business, spend 25 years writing books." It's not
overnight.
something that happens overnight.
Yeah, you have to learn things. Well, I really like this third statement because it made me think about manifesting versus marketing and
Mm.
something in the spiritual community that's sold a lot or marketed, advertised. Because I know there's a difference between advertising and marketing. Marketing is like what you do to get the advertising out there, right?
Marketing is anyone who's taken a marketing class knows about the four P's. It's product, price, place, and promotion.
Hmm.
So product is the actual thing, but that also includes branding. And there's a whole, theories and things to talk about in terms of branding. Because branding is the image, right? The logo, like the Nike swoosh. It's the tagline, if it has one, like just do it. And then the mythology. And the mythology is the story behind the brand because the logo in and of itself is meaningless. It's what do you think when you see that logo? What is the stories that come to mind? So something like Nike, it's the best of athleticism. It's Michael Jordan, it's Tiger Woods, it's whoever that you think of in relationship to that. If it's Disney, it's magic. If it's Volvo, it's safety.
Hmm.
So it's not just the logo that you're looking at, it's what does it evoke for you when you see it. So that's the product. Price is how much does it cost? And you can use things like psychological pricing to make a product seem like it's better than it actually is. Places where it's sold, and the last part of it is promotion. Promotion is where advertising lives. And it could be advertising, it could be direct sales, it could be email marketing, it could be you know, PR or ads or whatever it is. So there's a lot of things that go on there, sponsorships, right? So advertising is a really small part, actually,
Hmm.
of what marketing is.
Okay, so marketing is like the foundation of
Hmm.
advertising. Got it.
Mhm.
Well, when it comes to manifesting, I feel like it's sold to people in the spiritual community so much like, oh, if you're having a bad time, if you do this three-step thing of manifesting, then
Mm,
all of these good things will come to you. And
mm,
I've noticed in the spiritual community that it's so much more energetic than it is action. And I've been learning that manifestation is equal parts action and energy. I have so
mm,
many people come to me and say, oh, well, I've been manifesting. Can you give me tips on why this thing that I want so bad isn't coming into my life? And
mm.
I had someone in spirit really give me a good explanation. It's like they said it's like you have a parking spot open, right? But you need to move your car out of the way. Otherwise, nothing new will come in. You're
Yeah,
just sitting
yeah,
there, but if you don't open it up, the new things won't come. So I just like how you say you have to really go after it in
right,
whatever way that you can in order to pursue what it is
right,
that you want. And so
right.
many people are starting to have that thrown
Yeah.
to them by saying, oh, someone else can do it for you.
I mean, I think that, I'm not a big fan of manifesting. I think a lot of what happens in terms of or of manifesting how it's presented in social media spaces, because you know, the secret and all of that stuff, that too could be a whole
A
whole
whole
nother,
different thing.
a
Yeah.
whole nother session that we could have about the secret. I think and I think this is true to the point that you just made. I think manifesting gives people an out to say that they're doing the work when they're not actually doing the work. I also think what happens is that people, particularly younger people, use it as a way to trick people online to buying something or buying a book or whatever it is. And so I tend to be pretty leery when it comes to manifesting, and that's the academic in me. So
Yeah.
there's yeah, I would tell people put in the work. And if you want to manifest on this, do your manifesting things on the side and let those two things work together, I think you'll have more success. Because I think there is a psychological aspect of manifesting
Hmm.
that does work. And let me give you an example. I This is a great example of manifesting, I think, manifesting and work together.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm married for the second time. And I had divorced my husband, my first husband, and I'd been on and off online dating for 7 years.
Hmm.
7 years. I think there was one guy I dated more than once. And I remember looking at my daughter at the time and thinking, six years from now, she's gone, and I don't want to be alone.
Hmm.
And that from that time forward, I was just like, okay, nope, this is it. I'm going on. I'm going to interact with people. I'm going to do the work. If there's somebody who I realize right away is no good, nope, done, 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 done. 6 months, might have been even less. I met my husband.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. But it was a mind change.
Hmm.
It wasn't like I'm going online, I'm going to do stuff. And it was like, no, I want to get married. I want to be married to somebody again. He needs to have these five things. And it didn't have anything to do with like a sense of humor. It's like, he has to be kind.
Hmm.
He has to be gainfully employed, which my ex-husband was not. He has to have been in a long-term relationship, so he knows what it's like to be in a long-term relationship. So
Yeah.
it was those kinds of things that I was looking for, and it made it much easier to like go through and say, okay, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That's what in the spiritual community we call it setting intentions. But
yes,
then you
yes, yes,
had the
yes,
follow through. So I feel like, the
yes.
disconnect is where people set intentions. That could be it could be good. I feel like some people need to work on setting their intentions, but the follow
Mhm.
through really is the most important thing. So
Right, right.
anyways, I enjoyed your third statement. So moving on to the fourth one, which is
Okay.
also equally as good, as lead with compassion.
Yeah.
Today, one-upping the next person and jumping on the rage bandwagon has become sport. That's because
Hmm.
algorithms feed on our anxiety and anger. Don't buy into it and take a breath.
Hmm. Yeah. There's so much in our world right now that is ready to take us out of that space of compassion. And when especially in social media spaces, I try to present information really factually, but I'm doing it from a place of I want to give you this information because this is going to be helpful to you. One of the things that someone once said to me, I do a lot of public speaking, and people are like, how do you do that? No, 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 no. And people always hear the line, pretend that everybody in the audience is naked. And I always thought that that was ridiculous, and it is ridiculous, and it doesn't work for me.
Uh-huh.
But what does work, and I think about this all the time, is there's nobody in the audience that wants you to fail. They want to
Mhm.
have a good time. They want to learn something, right? They said, think about when you are stepping on that stage that you are giving the people in the audience a gift.
Mhm. That's very kind. I like
Yeah.
that.
Right? And so it stops being about you.
Hmm.
It's not about you. It's you being me. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about me giving the information I know to other people that they can then use it to make their lives better. And so that's where the compassion comes from. I think some of it too is frankly, I'm older. You know, I I'm in my 60s,
Yeah.
and I've seen a lot and I've been through a lot. And I think you get to a point, I think this started when I turned 50. You get to a point where you just don't deal with a whole lot of crap anymore. And your bullshit detector gets a lot better.
Mm.
And you realize that you have less time ahead than you did behind. And so what do you want that to look like?
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, I've learned from my daughter. My daughter is Gen Z. She's 25.
Mhm.
And she's one of the kindest people I know. She's absolutely one of the kindest people I know. And so, you find role models for yourself to teach you how to do that. And I think also one of the way things to do, especially in online spaces, and I find myself doing this and I erase it. When I find myself starting to post something nasty, I find myself stopping and erasing it. It's because it's like, I don't want to put that energy out in the world.
Mhm.
And half the times you're talking to a bot. So
Yeah.
it's okay, no. Goodbye, block on.
I think talking about things in a kind way, even if like you said, you catch yourself wanting to say something mean or nasty or in a retort to whatever. I
Hmm.
think stopping yourself, like you said, and then saying something kind
Yeah,
instead,
yeah.
even though something mean is what's causing you to say something kind, it is kind
Hmm.
of like a proverbial screw you to that energy.
Oh,
Honestly,
I like that. I like that.
it
Yeah,
is like because you
yeah,
would think that the cause and effect of this would be something mean stimulates something
yeah.
mean back. But if
Right.
something mean can stimulate something compassionate and something kind, then I
Hmm.
think that speaks greater volumes than any sort of defense mechanism that may come out instead. I
Hmm.
was I like how you said, picturing people in their underwear is silly because I also think the same thing.
Yeah.
And I used to be so nervous to meet people to do readings.
Hmm.
And my mom told me something. She goes, listen, as a medium, it is not your responsibility to tell people what they want to know. You're there to tell them what they
Hmm.
need to know. And
Hmm.
that information isn't coming from you, it's coming from
Right,
someone else. As a
right,
medium, it's your responsibility to be the neutral mediator, the
right.
translator of whoever's talking to someone else.
Hmm.
So that really helped me. It took the responsibility off of me
Right, right,
of it isn't
right.
about me, it's
Hmm.
about them.
Right,
You're just the
right.
person that's communicating the information. You're the
Hmm.
channel, you're the
Hmm.
medium.
Hmm.
So I was listening to, I could be wrong. I want to say it. I'm 98% sure that it was Maya Angelou.
Hmm.
And she was giving a speech and talking about how she can get up on stage and just talk to people and
Hmm.
be charismatic and kind and vivacious and spunky. And she said that when she gets up on stage, I'm not going to cry because it's really cool. Um, um, she says that because like you just said, as you get older, you start to just not care as much because
Hmm.
you have more self-worth and self-confidence. So hearing that from someone like you, again, a professional, and as a woman of your age and a woman I'm 27. So
Mm. Wow. Yeah.
I need to hear that from other women in the
Hmm.
profession that talk. But Maya Angelou said that when she's on stage, she's never by herself. because she
Mm,
always has the presence of her ancestors. And
mm.
as a medium, as a spiritualist, I was like, that's really freaking cool because
Yeah.
my ancestors may or may not be there. That's not necessarily my take of it, but when I'm sitting there as a medium, it's I'm there with the people that are coming forward to talk to
Right.
their loved
Right.
ones.
Right.
So it really is you're not alone and it's not
Right.
about you.
Right.
So I
Right.
really
Yeah.
like that a lot.
Yeah. No, you stand on the shoulders of the people that came before you.
hmm
That's for sure. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to your fifth and last statement, which is create with purpose. You said that at some level, we're all creating something, and it's best to be conscious
Mm.
of it and do what you can and move the planet and its people in a positive direction. And you said that your
Mm.
favorite Albert Einstein quote is imagination is more than knowledge. And the full quote, because I just used this in a video a week ago. It actually comes out this week while we're recording. But it's imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited, whereas imagination embraces the
Mm.
entire world, stimulating progress and giving birth to evolution. And I love it.
Mm. I don't think I've ever heard the rest of that quote before.
No?
No, no, I've only heard that one part of it. So that's thank you for educating me. Um, yeah, well, just a reminder, my last name is Einstein, and yes, I'm very distantly related to Albert, and sometimes my hair even looks like his. So, um, but yeah, I look, it's your life is a choice, and what you do with your energy in your life is always a choice. And you can either choose to use your energy for good, or you can choose to use the energy for not so good. And unfortunately, the not so good is what is being fronted right now. So it's all the more important for those of us. Now you're going to get me crying. Now it's more important for those of us who are working in a place to try to make the world a better place to be that much more intentional in terms of working toward making things more positive. And that could be your next door neighbor, checking in with your older next door neighbor if it's too hot outside and making sure that they have air conditioning or water or food or whatever it is. Um, to coming up, being part of mutual aid in your community, to, if you're a content creator, creating content that is going to inform and educate and maybe even entertain people at the same time.
Yeah. I use this quote specifically because we talked about, sometimes information in the spiritual and religious world is marketed towards people specifically when they're at a low point in their life.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've been learning that over the past 5 years, I've been finding it difficult to find my place within the spiritual community, quote unquote,
Hmm.
spiritual
Hmm.
world,
Hmm.
because it seems like spirituality is talked about or marketed as something that helps you to escape reality.
Mm,
And
mm,
I've never been able to put it into words. And now, after 5 years of doing this professionally, I feel like that is why I've been feeling displaced by it or not
mm,
able to find my own niche, if you will.
mm,
So I use this quote specifically by saying to like putting in tandem instead of saying imagination, but saying
mhm,
spirituality.
mhm,
Spirituality is more important than knowledge because when you talk about spiritual things, you don't know anything for sure. You're just
mhm,
hypothesizing, you're
mhm,
theorizing, you're talking about it. It's a discussion,
mhm,
not hard stone facts.
mhm,
For spirituality is for knowledge is limited, whereas spirituality embraces the entire world, stimulating progress and giving birth to evolution. So I feel like
mm,
so many people get, they need to ground themselves in spirituality and not use it to just go into another space where you can't
mhm.
hear anything or
Right.
because my things just came out of my head where you're using it to escape reality. That's not what
Yeah.
it's for.
Yeah.
So, and just
Yeah.
like you buying things isn't for using it to escape whatever it is that you need to do,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. You know what? I talked about this recently. One of the things that the New Age has used as an example all the time was about um, that you have to heal yourself first so then you can heal the world. But that's the example that they use all the time, over and over and over and over again, right? You have to when the and you're in an airplane and you're with a child, you have to put the air on your face first and then you help somebody else. And that's the example that's used all the time. And that is not right. We
Mm.
are all imperfect beings. And if we wait until we are perfect, then the world was never going to change. Don't use spirituality as a crutch or a reason to avoid engaging with the world. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. I promise you. Right? And spirituality is an assist, right? It's an added benefit to help you be more fully engaged with the world. It's not a reason. I mean, unless you're going to be, the Dalai Lama, and even the Dalai Lama is engaging with the world, right?
My favorite quote from the Dalai Lama, not quote, but my favorite story from the Dalai Lama was someone asked him one time, well, what is it like to be a god? Because people think that you're a god, you're
Mm,
just like reincarnated.
mm.
And his question to this interviewer was, did you know that this morning I woke up and I couldn't find my glasses? And he says it's so silly because you get it. When you
Yeah,
can't find your
yeah,
glasses, it
yeah.
makes it harder to find your glasses because you can't see
Right,
them.
right.
And he said, if I were a god, would I need glasses?
Hmm. Hmm. Right,
So he
right,
didn't answer the question, but it's, everyone's normal and everyone's going through the things that they need to. But when it
right.
comes to spirituality, it's not something used to run away from the world. I'm learning more as I get older that living in the world, and like you said, like it's okay to be bored.
Right,
Sometimes you just need to sit
right,
down
right,
and listen to the birds, and
right,
you are important. What is it? You is kind, you is smart, you is important. You are valued enough, you are
right,
enough to just
right,
exist.
right,
And you can
right.
find so much healing in just being able to exist.
Yeah, I there was a rabbi that I interviewed for, I think, for Brands of Faith, and I asked him, do you believe in God? And he said, yeah. I said, does God exist? And he said, I'm not sure if God exists, but I wake up every morning thinking that he does, and on the days that I do that, my day goes better.
Mm, that's very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, if thinking God exists help you to think in terms of, you know, you're a small cog in the wheel. You're enough as you are, but you're also still a small cog in the wheel that's trying to make all of this space better.
Mm,
That's an okay thing.
it is an okay thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. All right. So moving on to our next point. So I did I did read that you wrote religion and marketing have an intertwined history. The idea
Mhm.
of church merch dates back to the Middle Ages. And as soon as I read this sentence, all I could think about was the witch hunts.